Hi, Mystery Recapped here. Today, I'm going to explain a thriller mystery movie called Leave the World Behind. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. The movie opens in New York, where a man named Clay Sanford awakens from his sleep. He notices his wife Amanda hurriedly packing their belongings and wonders what's going on. Amanda reveals that she has booked an Airbnb for the family in Long Island for the weekend. Clay is thrilled to hear this, as he too needs a break from his busy life. However, when he inquires about the reason for the sudden vacation, Amanda says she hates people and wants to get away from them for a while. The scene then cuts to the road trip where we are introduced to their teenage son Archie and little daughter Rose. It turns out Rose is a huge fan of the TV show Friends and is excitedly watching it. A few hours later, they arrive at the mansion where they'll be spending the weekend. It is a beautiful property with a pool and a large backyard. Clay notices some expensive liquor in the cabinet, but it appears to be locked. This makes him realize the booze is not for them. Later, Amanda goes to the local market to get some groceries. While returning, she notices a bearded man stocking up a large quantity of food and emergency supplies that'll probably last for a long time. Amanda finds it odd, but she chooses to ignore it and departs. In the afternoon, the family heads to the beach for a relaxing time. Amanda is happy to see that there are far less people as compared to the city, while everyone is engrossed in their activities. Rose points out that a massive ship is approaching them. The family ignores it, thinking it's just a normal cargo ship, but it draws closer and closer, making them realize that something is wrong. Alarmed, they quickly grab their stuff and make a run for it. The other people at the beach also flee in haste, causing absolute chaos. Soon after, the ship crashes onto the shore and gets completely stuck. A confused Clay asks a security guard what's happening, to which the latter reveals that there have been 3 similar incidents today. In each case, the ship's GPS was not working, and without GPS these days, everyone is fucked. Upon returning home, Amanda tries to find information about the ship incident, but discovers that the Wi-Fi and TV aren't working. This initially worries her, but then her mood changes when she notices her children having fun in the pool. The couple also notices a pair of deer in the backyard, which Clay interprets as a good omen. Later that night, after the kids go to sleep, Amanda and Clay enjoy some wine and play Jenga, but their romantic moment is interrupted when they hear strange noises coming from outside. Clay assumes it's an intruder, so he grabs a weapon and carefully proceeds towards the door, but upon opening it, he is shocked to find a well-dressed man and a girl. The man introduces himself as George and says the girl is his daughter, Ruth. He then reveals that he's the house's owner, with whom Amanda had previously communicated via email. Upon hearing this, Amanda is suspicious as she has never met the man, but Clay invites him inside anyway. George then starts explaining his predicament. He reveals that they were driving home from a concert when there was a sudden citywide blackout. They wanted to head to their apartment in the city, but it's on the 14th floor. Since the lifts were not working, it would be impossible to climb all the way up, given that George has a bad knee. Hence, the two decided to come to their second home here in the outskirts. Amanda is hesitant to let them stay, as she doesn't even know if they are the real owners. However, Ruth gets upset and insists that it's their home, and they can't just be kicked out like that. Moments later, George uses his keys to open the locked cabinet, where we see an envelope and a pistol. He takes out $1,000 cash from the envelope and gives it to Amanda as a 50% refund. He promises that this is only for one night, and they will sleep in the basement. Clay is blinded by his greed for the money, so he agrees, but his wife is still suspicious. After this, Amanda begins interrogating George and asks about his wife. He responds that she is an art dealer and is currently on a trip to Morocco. He also offers them some expensive liquor, which Amanda refuses straight away. However, Clay doesn't see it as a big deal and eagerly accepts the drink. Amanda then asks if George has any ID, but he claims that he accidentally left his wallet at the concert during the blackout commotion. This makes Amanda even more suspicious, but before she can inquire further, they are distracted by a loud, shrill sound coming from the TV. Turns out it's an announcement from the US government. They have declared a state of emergency, but the reason is not specified. This freaks Amanda out, and she realizes that the situation is critical. Hence, she eventually agrees to let the father-daughter stay in the basement. At midnight, the TV switches to an update, revealing that the country is under cyber attack. But since everyone is sound asleep, they don't even notice the the news. The next morning, Rose approaches her sleeping mother and says that she can't watch the last episode of Friends because they don't have Wi-Fi. Amanda sends her away from the room and checks her phone. She notices several notifications about the blackout and a hacking attack. Worried, she immediately awakens her husband to inform him of the news, but to her shock, the notifications have suddenly vanished. Later, Amanda goes downstairs for breakfast and meets Ruth. Although they are both annoyed to see each other, they attempt to make some small talk. Ruth inquires about her and her husband's professions, to which Amanda reveals that she handles business relations, while Clay works as a university professor. At this moment, George also joins in on the conversation. Amanda mentions the news about the hacking attack, but George assures her that they're probably just some teen hackers messing around. Meanwhile, Ruth is concerned about her mother, who's supposed to be on a flight home. George assures her that she's probably fine and will return soon. Since they have no idea what's going on in the outside world, he decides to visit one of their neighbors to see if they know anything. In the afternoon, Clay drives to town to get a newspaper, but soon realizes that the GPS isn't working. The roads are very quiet, with no sign of people anywhere. Clay gets lost in no time and struggles to find his way. Soon after, a Mexican woman approaches him and hysterically pleads for help. Clay doesn't understand a word she's saying, so he ignores her and drives away. The woman cries and begs him to return, but he doesn't go back. As Clay drives forward, he comes across a shocking sight: a drone dropping red papers in the middle of the road. This freaks him out, and he tries to escape, but the red papers eventually engulf him. Meanwhile, Rose notices some deer in the forest and tells her brother about it. The two then venture into the woods looking for them. They fail to find the deer, but come across an old shed. Scared, the siblings decide to leave, but Archie is bitten by a bug along the way. Elsewhere, George arrives at the neighbor's home, but finds no one there. He descends to the garage and discovers a satellite phone. He attempts to use it to call the authorities, but it doesn't work. Following this, he gets out of the house and slowly proceeds towards the nearby beach. George is horrified when he spots a hand sticking out of the sand, along with other human remains. Seconds later, he notices a plane approaching directly towards him. George runs as fast as he can and barely makes it out alive as the plane crashes and explodes. Shortly after, he returns home and tells Amanda that the situation is far worse than he thought. He reveals that he just saw a plane crash, and even the satellite phone isn't working, which can only mean one thing: the hackers have knocked the satellite out of commission. Just then, a piercing, high-pitched sound blasts out of nowhere, causing everyone to whimper in pain. It continues for a while, and then inexplicably stops. In the aftermath of this incident, Amanda starts becoming paranoid. She envisions various scenarios like alien invasions and whatnot. She also mentions that she saw a bearded man at the market yesterday who was buying tons of supplies and food. She suspects that he knew what was going to happen. Upon hearing this, George reveals that the man is his contractor, Danny. He is a self-proclaimed survivalist who is always prepared for situations like these. At this moment, Clay also returns home, and Amanda hugs him with relief. He tells them about the drone and shows them the red paper that had been dropped. The paper is covered in Arabic text, which they don't understand, but Archie, who plays a lot of video games, explains that it means death to America. Kids who play Call of Duty all day aren't typically into it for learning new languages, but I'll let it slide. Hearing this, Amanda has had enough and decides to leave immediately with her family. George warns that going to the city could be dangerous, but she is willing to take that risk. Shortly after, the family drives away but doesn't see a single soul on the road. They soon encounter a roadblock where tons of cars are lined up. Amanda gets out to investigate and notices something strange. All the crashed cars are brand new Teslas, without any drivers. Moments later, the couple spots another car coming their way. Clay becomes excited, thinking he can finally talk to someone, but Amanda realizes it's on autopilot. Thus, they very quickly get inside their vehicle and drive away, narrowly avoiding hundreds of Teslas. They then return to George's mansion, as it is the only safe house for them right now. In the evening, Clay and Ruth meet by the pool and have a smoking session. During this, she attempts to flirt with him and asks if he's ever slept with any of his students. Clay laughs and admits that he's not that kind of person. He then changes the topic and reveals about the Mexican woman he met earlier. Clay says that he feels guilty for not being able to help her. He also mentions the massive ship that crashed on the beach a few days ago. This horrifies Ruth, and she starts to believe the country is under a terrorist attack. Just then, a flock of flamingos lands in the pool, leaving them both baffled. On the other hand, Amanda and George are bonding over a drinking session. She apologizes for the way she treated him earlier, and he promptly forgives her. He then plays some music and the two start dancing and having fun. They get very close and hug each other, but Amanda points out that they're both drunk and married. George agrees and says that he loves his wife a lot. However, he's scared that she's probably dead by now and begins to cry. At this moment, the high-pitched sound rings again, causing everyone to freak out. The next morning, Amanda wakes up to discover that Archie is sick. He's not just normal sick. His teeth are suddenly falling out, and he's vomiting blood. This sends Amanda into a state of panic, and she decides to take him to a hospital immediately. However, George points out that it won't be possible in their current situation. He instead offers to take the boy to Danny, who might have some medical supplies. Just when George prepares to leave, the group realizes that Rose is missing. This sends everyone into panic mode, and Archie suggests that she might be in the shed they found in the forest. Amanda decides to find her, while Clay and George proceed to Danny's place with the sick boy. Ruth pleads with her father not to leave, but he assures her that he'll be fine. He also asks her to help Amanda, to which she reluctantly agrees. Shortly after, the two girls arrive at the shed, only to find it empty. Ruth suggests going back home, but Amanda becomes increasingly frustrated and yells at her. This leads to an argument, and Ruth eventually breaks down in tears. She accuses Amanda of being a cold-hearted person who only cares about her family. Ruth then reveals that her mom is probably dead, and her father might not return at all. Upon hearing this, Amanda feels bad and admits that she has a problem with being ill-tempered. She tells Ruth that she does care about her and apologizes for her actions. Following this, they come out of the cabin, only to find hundreds of creepy deer staring at them. The alpha then comes towards them, and it seems it wants to attack. But the women unleash their ultimate weapon, screaming at the top of their lungs. This scares the poor animals, and they run away in fear. On the other hand, the men arrive at Danny's place to seek help. However, he shockingly points a gun at them and demands they step back. George explains Archie's condition, saying he's gravely ill and requires urgent help, but Danny refuses to provide any medicine. He reasons that their nation is at war, and he also has a family to protect. Clay even offers him $1,000, but the man declines, stating that money has become obsolete now. He threatens them to leave, but a desperate George pulls out his own gun, insisting that they won't budge until they get the medicine. Tensions begin to flare, and the men almost shoot each other. However, Clay intervenes just in time and calms them down. He admits that he's a useless man, but he can't let his son die like this. Clay further explains that despite their differences, they share one thing in common: the desire to protect their families. The speech finally convinces Danny, and he agrees to provide the pills in exchange for the money. After this, the men return to the car, and George informs Clay that the situation is more serious than he thought. He explains that a military guy once told him about a 3-step maneuver to overthrow a government from within. The first step is to isolate the population, which means cutting off all communication. The second step is to create synchronized chaos, which means misinformation such as the weird red papers. And the final step is civil war, in which people begin to fight amongst themselves, the most cost-effective way to bring down a nation, especially one as dysfunctional as America. George stresses that no matter what happens, they must not turn against each other. Elsewhere, Amanda and Ruth are still looking for Rose when they suddenly stop to stare into the distance. They watch in horror as Manhattan is bombed and a riot erupts across the city. In the final scene, we see that Rose has snuck into one of the neighbors' mansions. She consumes a delicious meal all by herself with zero care of what's happening. She even hears her mother's voice in the distance, but ignores it and ventures further into the house. Rose soon discovers a bunker equipped with everything one could need: food, water, gym equipment, books, and plenty of supplies. The internet is also working, and a news update reveals that the White House has been attacked by rogue armed forces. As if that's not all, the radiation levels have increased significantly in different parts of the country. However, Rose ignores all of that as she spots a collection of DVDs, which includes Friends as well. She pops it in and plays the final episode and settles down to watch as the movie comes to an end. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.